Hello everybody. Today my team will be presenting on the Berlin Brandenburg Airport, and it is being presented by Akshay Samona, Amber Morgan, Dwayne Johnson, Tej Patel, and William Penn. To start off, I will briefly go over the table of contents of today's presentation. We will start off with the case introduction, the background of the case, and we will go over some of the many failures of this project, which include stakeholders, communication, scope, infrastructure, and bankruptcy. And then we will end it all off with a conclusion.
The case introduction. Berlin-Brandenburg Airport is a German disaster that's been ongoing for nearly 2 decades now. This project is a rare instance for this country because it's been known for its engineering, efficiency, and precision. Delays and reconstruction of the airport are due to the 66,500 defects that were found, out of which 34,000 were significant and additional 5,845 were critical. The new strategy that they adopted to avoid any further embarrassment was it will open when it opens. Background. After the reunification of Germany in 1990, the plans for a new airport in Berlin are proposed. In 1996, an agreement between Berlin, Brandenburg, and the Federal Republic is reached. After this, the application for the planning approval is submitted only after 2.5 years, in 1999. This is followed by a series of meetings between entities, then site inspection and relocation of residents, after which construction is underway in 2006. The next biggest milestones are the reveal of the German Air Traffic Control Tower in 2009 and the terminal reveal in 2010. After this, it all goes downhill, the delays start and are still ongoing.
Hello, my name is Dwayne Johnson. The stakeholders for the Berlin airport included the Berlin citizens, in which 335 citizens were relocated, the airlines that were supposed to be in the new terminal, the workers, and 2 other airports, Berlin Sturmfeld and Berlin Tegel, that were supposed to close once the new terminal was completed. As you can see, there are a lot of stakeholders, which made it difficult for the proper change management process and to view the project through the eyes of the stakeholders. Because of the failure of the new terminal, the 2 outdated airports remain open, and as a result, the citizens voted to keep the 2 airports open even after the new terminal is completed. The main stakeholders should have been prioritized to the citizens to avoid the request to keep both outdated airports open. Leadership and governance failure included the lack of leadership. Inspectors found poor workmanship, which included electrical doors that wouldn't work because of lack of electricity, corporal floor sagging without the cars, and cables not ran through shaft as it should be. All of the poor workmanship was a result of unsupervised workers. Poor documentation was the next factor, as the blueprints for the terminal building alarm system was not constructed as it was in the construction permit. An unqualified engineer named Alfred De Mauro had a design flaw in his fire suppression system, which could have been avoided if top management would have checked his credentials and also demanded other works that he had done. The failures of the Berlin terminal would have been corrected if top management was more involved in the project. The unqualified engineer would not have caused the project to go over budget if he was properly vetted by top management. The citizens would have been top stakeholders to give them the acknowledgement that their voice matters. To finally complete the project owners should have used a waterfall method, as it would have kept the project on track without room for alterations until the end. They would have had to have everything in order at the requirement phase, in which they would gather all the detailed requirements of the terminal project, and also in this phase, Mr. Morrow's credentials would have been verified. The next phase would be the design phase, where the fire system would have been questioned. The project would start in the implementation phase. The verification phase would be management responsibility to follow up and check on the worker's progress. The constant upkeep will be performed in the maintenance phase.
Completing a massive project such as the completion of the new state-of-the-art international airport takes a great amount of communication. There were many technical issues. Majority of the construction did not meet regulatory requirements. There were also allegations of corruption, demise of several contractors, and legal disputes within the financials. Berlin is known for its mastery in engineering, but things always seem to fall through. It can be implied that they are lacking in other areas of project management, such as communication. There was joint ownership and no one took full responsibility. Berlin, Brandenburg, and the federal government were all involved, but no one decided who was going to make the final decisions. I think a few solutions to these issues would be to have regulatory meetings before the work was planned to be executed and have one group clearly make the final decision so that everyone is on the same page.
Hi, this is Tesh Patel, and I'm here to talk about the quality issues of the Brandenburg Airport. There were over 66,500 defects found, of which 5,845 were critical. Some of the critical issues included smoke control, fire detection, faulty wiring, and poor insulation. The reason the bridge had so many concerns is that requirements were never discussed or were poorly discussed, which led to people having different expectations. Also, they failed to plan appropriate quality reviews. And third, integration and testing of the individual components were left until all the developmental activities were completed. Solutions for the quality concerns include top management to relay the requirements for all the departments so that everyone's on track and is on the same page. And second, to use incremental testing so problems can be sought out and fixed early. Problems like the smoke extractor fans will never happen again as long as careful planning and testing can be done.
Our next point goes over the scope and requirements of this project. One of the main issues was that there was a high volume of scope creeps. A scope creep is continuous or uncontrolled growth in a project scope. Some examples in this particular case would be that management decided that there should be an addition of a north and south pier. Originally, the plan was to have a rectangular shape, but the addition of the south and north piers will change it to a U shape, thus increasing the amount of floor space dramatically and still using the same amount of resources. The next biggest problem with scope for this case would be that later in the project cycle, toward about 75% way through, management decided to add a whole second level of shops, boutiques, and food courts, basically implementing a mall into the airport. Moving on to the possible solutions to the failures regarding scope of this project. It is very important to handle these problems because scope and requirements embody all different aspects of a project. They include time, resources, and planning. So, the first thing that must be done or is considered is the project charter. This is where the requirements of a project are listed down and it is easy to see tasks in an organized manner. From there, it is important to take these tasks and choose which ones are critical. And this could be done using something such as a PERT chart or other methods. After analyzing and identifying critical tasks, the team will know which tasks should be done so they don't get sidetracked on side tasks as they did in the past, which delays the project even further. After identifying these critical tasks, they can choose the correct process of how they should complete them. For example, waterfall or scrum. The team should decide if they want to get tasks done one at a time, which is the case for waterfall, or if they want to work on multiple tasks at a time. And then lastly, one of the main aspects that should be considered is resource management. In this case in particular, resources were spread thinly, and this includes time, manpower, and actual physical resources to build the tasks that were at hand.
Foresight. This is in regards to risk management and estimation. Risk management is further categorized into two problem categories that could have been avoided. Number one, internal, and number two, external. The internal problems. Number one, the insufficient quality test resulted in problems that could have been avoided if there were precautions to begin with. This set the date of the opening back. One of the biggest defects was the fire suppression system, and it was built against the laws of physics, which was a huge problem because it was not up to code. Number 2, the external problems. Number 1, the construction company in 2012 went bankrupt, and if there was an analysis done on this company beforehand, they wouldn't have to search for a new company to take charge. Due to all these setbacks, Lufthansa wanted to be a potential major airline that opens their hub in this airport, and they withdrew. Now, in regards to estimation, the first one, not understanding the scope of what needs to be done, made them put unrealistic expectations, which led to a lot of problems where there were not any contingencies. If contingencies were built beforehand, then there would not have to be multiple opening dates. And this refers back to the unrealistic commitments that the leadership took, which resulted in multiple opening dates. Solutions for Foresight. In terms of risk management for the internal problems, if a third-party evaluator was brought in, they would have been objective and the problems could have been rooted out before. For external problems, if the construction company and Lufthansa were a bigger part of the process, then a lot of these problems wouldn't have occurred and the airport could have done additional homework on them to avoid the problems that had occurred. For estimation, with the scope ever changing, the process should have taken that into account with the help of more people on the ground. This would have kept expectations realistic. With multiple opening dates, it was surprising that they did not build further contingencies, especially with all the problems in the airport. Taking this into account, the opening dates should have been a lot more fluid rather than firm, which would have made it possible to not have so many. Moving on to the conclusive analysis. The goal and vision behind the idea of this airport is commendable, but due to all these mistakes, it's very clear that it is a failure. This resulted in multiple opening dates. The main goal of this airport should now be to right their wrongs and complete on time, with their current opening date being 2020. Even after the completion of the airport, it will be regarded as one of the biggest project failures for years to come.